Welcome, everyone, to episode 68 of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. Joined alongside me is my brother Tanner. How's it hanging, dude?
It's hanging. And instead of talking about the weather today, like I sometimes usually do in the fall months, we'll talk about Cavs are undefeated as of this
Still.
moment. Still undefeated. Just a little NBA blurb for you. We don't got a ton of NBA news on this docket, but go watch Cavs. Think they play tonight. Spurs still kind of suck, but you know what? It's all right. we ride or die with Wemby, and they're looking all right. CP3 looks okay. Harrison Barnes looks all right, but yeah, in non-related football news, that's what we got going on here in my household. A lot of basketball, a lot of NBA, and the play-in tournament started. So, or not the play-in, the NBA Cup, excuse me, has started.
They got the courts, the jerseys. It all looks real nice. I think Toronto's playing, if I'm not mistaken, against the Bucks in that one. I think that might have already happened or is coming up. But yeah, Lakers guy over here, and Anthony Davis for MVP at this point in the season. You know what I mean? You gotta just throw that one out there. But hey, like you said, we're gonna talk about football mostly like we always do. We have a prospect profile this week. We got Quinn Ewers. It's November. That's right. We're starting it early. Usually it's in maybe December, sometimes usually January is when we really start those prospect profiles. But we're starting early because we've gotten a lot of requests, so we appreciate it. Well, hockey news. We're going to do a little bit of hockey news here. The Sharks got another win, so we're looking solid right now. We're sitting at 4. Hey, we started off 0-8, and I think we've rattled off 4 out of the last 6 or something like that. So I will absolutely take that. But hey,
They look good.
Another thing, they don't, but it's okay. Another thing, Celebrini's back there,
Exactly.
and it's the youngest player to score. That's pretty cool. But anyway,
on the oldest player, right? I saw that too. He scored on the oldest player.
He did. I saw that post as well. That's pretty crazy to think about. Just an absolute snipe. Dude's got a cannon.
He's nasty
for a shot. It's insane.
The only Sharks news I ever see is of Celebrini.
and don't forget Will Smith. Will Smith is going to be another guy that's solid. There's a lot of young players on prospects on that team. And like I said, every podcast, it's 3 years. Give me 3 years, maybe we'll be sniffing the playoffs at that point. But the Winnipeg Jets started out 14-1, and that's the best start to a season of all time.
That's cool.
Believe it or not. So I don't think anybody saw that coming from the Winnipeg Jets. If anybody's going to be thinking a team in Canada is going to be going, Edmonton was there last year. They went to the Cup final last year. They did lose to the Florida Panthers, but you would think that Edmonton would, kind of come out of the gate real hot, but they didn't. Just like last season, Toronto's played a little bit better. Vancouver, it's kind of the same song and dance. And then you got Calgary, who started off real hot, falling off of a cliff. So there's just so many different Canadian teams in the NHL. Big hockey guys. Well, we'll definitely sprinkle some of that in whenever we go to the off season. There you go, just like that. If you're watching on the YouTube,
Salt Bay.
But anyway, there you go. Nice. Seen that one before. For those on Spotify, we're talking Dallas Cowboys like always. We're talking NFL news. We got NFL matchup predictions as well for the bettors. Some college football. And then, like I said, the prospect profile of Quinn Ewers. So we're going to start it off right now with the Dallas Cowboys. And it's the Dallas Cowboys. You got to talk about the quarterback. And last week, Dak had an injury. Now this week, the injury is season-ending. So it is official that the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, Dak Prescott, is out for the season, opening the gates for Cooper Rush, the franchise court. Just kidding. No. Trey Lance, no, hasn't even beaten out Cooper Rush for the second spot. What do you think? We're going to definitely predict the rest of the schedule. But what do you think about that? It's one of those things for me that, hey, it's Super Bowl or bust, and clearly this year's not Super Bowl. So I'm never want to wish injury on someone, but hey, quarterback has to go down for the season.
If there was a season for it to happen, I'm glad it's this one. That's pretty much, I think, the overarching just theme of Cowboys fans right now. It's like, okay, yeah, well, they sucked anyways. Obviously you don't want to wish that on anybody. Dak, it looked like a very painful injury, and unfortunately the Cowboys run through Dak. And without him there, you saw pretty much what they could do, last week, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. So, I mean, Trey Lance, he's all right. Cooper Rush, he's played well in the past, but you're not. you're not looking for a playoff spot. I don't think at this point. I think you're just trying to survive
No,
and make it through the season. And all hopes are pretty much gone if they weren't already, before the Dak
I don't.
injury.
I don't even think they go 500.
No,
Like,
no, not
I
even.
don't. I
No.
don't even think it's close to 500. I think they have two legitimate chances to win games, like two games that I give them the nod right away, and that's the Giants and the Panthers. But the Panthers this last week did start to look a little bit better. And honestly, if the Panthers beat the Cowboys this season, I wouldn't be like, yeah, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of saw that one coming. But at the same time, for me and the Cowboys, those are the only teams that I see them absolutely beating. I know at the beginning of the season we both said the
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys were going to split with Washington and the Eagles. That's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then you got to play the Bengals, and you got some other tough teams in there as well. So it's top 10 pick territory.
Top 10 pick, hopefully a little bit higher, but I think this is going to be a really, really good chance to see what Trey Lance can do. And that's pretty much, I think, what is
If
enough.
they start him.
If they start him, I mean, we saw a little bit of him after Cooper Rush it
True.
just got destroyed and just threw the ball away. Not in a good way, but it, I mean, that's a guy that Jerry went out and got and, used some, I would say, decent draft capital to go and get. I want to say it was a 5th-round pick. So that's a guy that you invested your future in, even though you got Dak under contract for the next like 4 years. But you're still, in the event that Dak does go down in this exact situation, you want a guy that's going to be able to step up and win you games, and that's just not what we've seen out of Trey thus far. We've seen it out of Cooper. We know that he can do that. It's at least in the his history as a Cowboy. So I'm curious to see where it goes moving forward. Trey didn't even have a really good outing when he did play this past week, and Cooper Rush looked horrible as well. But those guys didn't have any time in the week to practice and get ready for that game. They're just kind of thrusted in there and expected to go and do something, right? But I think under a week of practice, I think Cooper Rush will look a little bit better. But still, then I don't think the offense is going to be nearly as good as it was, which is kind of crazy because they weren't even that good to begin with this season to start with. So, when you take a bad offense combined with a bad defense and make both of those things pretty much worse, just by nature of not having a starting quarterback, it's probably going to get a little worse. You're not going to win as many games. So, in a season that you were already winning not a lot of games, it's going to go from little to none. It's a tough injury, but it's getting ready to pack up for next season, and I don't think that's a overreaction by any stretch of the means, and probably a good thing if you're Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones or that whole family. Just look to the draft, look to what you do well, and let's get this thing rolling for next season. Hopefully, Dak will come back and play better than ever.
Well, yeah, because you got him signed to a contract. I think this would have definitely played into the contract if he hadn't signed. Another one that didn't help is the CeeDee Lamb comments. Jerry Jones, stupid moment times like 50,000 just this offseason. I get it. You're a home player. You've played there for quite a while with CeeDee. That's happened before. That's not the first time this has happened. You and I have actually been to a game where we saw him drop a touchdown in that exact situation, except they were already in the red zone, and it was a whole lot closer. It was literally like a inside cross play almost, like just a standard regular pass, and he just dropped it because you can't see anything. Jerry come out and saying like it does the same thing to the opponents, like it hurts them too. Well,
I've never seen it.
Technically, it does happen if they're going against the sun that way, because the sun it just sets certain way. You know what I mean? Pretty standard, right? Not a big science guy, but I think some people know that's somewhat correct. And so the way it sets, because we've been in the stadium, I don't know how many times, it sets in a way, and when it's setting, it's like the rays just shine right through that window. It's 100%. CD's 100% right. We've been there. If you're walking on the other side, you're legitimately blinded. It looks like you're like in 5 o'clock traffic. You're going over a hill, and you're like, I have no clue where this guy's bumper is. You know what I mean? It is 100% like that. But with Jerry coming out and being like, well, it does the same thing the other team, like, you're right. But, like, he dropped a touchdown. Like, that's your team. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just, like, it's just one of those things where, like, anytime I see it now, I'm just like, I just don't care. And then you have Micah, and you have all these guys off the field that are talking up about it. And to me, it's interesting. It's a new way of sports. You would have never seen that in like the 80s, the 90s, you know what I mean? Even in the 70s. But now, you got players that, Micah has platforms and all these players have platforms and they can say whatever the hell they want. And Micah does, and his stuff's hilarious. I definitely tune into it, but man, just another look where it's like Cowboy fans are like, just stop giving them so much ammo, man. You know what I mean? Like just stop. But
yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, I've kind of, obviously you and I, we've been in the stadium, we've been there countless times, and we've seen it firsthand. People, and players drop balls because of that, that glare from the window. That's just, it's right there. And if you got a like a noon game, it might be in there. But if you got like a 3 o'clock game, it's gonna be in there, especially now that daylight savings has happened in Dallas. So it's going right there. You know what I mean? So by the time the game's over, it's going to be dark outside. So the entire sun's going to set by the time you're done with that game. So you're going to get all of it, full force.
And to say too, the stadium's got AC. It feels great when you walk in there, especially from outside in that tailgate. We've gotten absolutely destroyed in that parking lot by hot weather and cold weather. And believe it or not, and I know, some people that may listen in the northern states, like I know we don't have anything on you guys in terms of tailgating.
No snow. But freezing though.
No snow. But
we did get
it's definitely freezing. But dude, those hot tailgates where it's like 105 and it's like 11 a.m. You're like, thank God this is a nooner. You know what I mean? You're walking into the stadium and you're just like, whew. Then you're walking out and you're like, this is insane. But what I was going to say, and sorry to cut you off in this long point, but you can feel the heat from that ray. You know what I mean? So it's not only like it's like it's hot too when you're walking through. You're like, oh, I'm cold, hot. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm in the middle of the ray, and you move out. Like it's noticeable too. So anyway, keep going.
I mean, it's just like I said, we've seen it countless times, and it really only happens to Cowboys players. Maybe just because they play in that stadium, obviously a lot more than any other NFL team. So it can just by the process of you being on the field more, it can happen to you more. So I think that's where it's like, oh yes, it does affect the opponent, but and maybe it's just my selective perception, but I just don't remember a time when it did affect the opponent, and maybe it did, but
there has been.
It definitely has, but I don't know. Maybe not to that degree. CeeDee Lamb dropping a touchdown, like a clearly wide open touchdown, So it's I don't know why he just refuses to put up why he refuses to put up curtains or even fix it a little bit.
Well, that's where you walk in. So that's exactly where you walk in. So when you would walk, it's on the same side because it's all glass on this side, all glass on the other side, and it's just like mirrored around the stadium, right? So you walk in. The angle's right here, and the sun.
Yeah, but it's up in like that little it's that little place where like all the drum dudes do their thing and ever.
Yeah.
With like the big Cowboys and like the Miller Lite thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's
all glass.
It is all glass. I guess it would kind of destroy the effect on the other side.
Yeah, and it would also look like real creepy. Like when you're walking up to the stadium, you'd be like, "What the
massive curtain?"
You know what I mean?
Like I would just put it on like 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock comes, just put the curtains up, and then
some nice shutters. They have some good ones.
Yeah, just make some cowboy themed shutters, that kind of go along with the design. I don't think anyone's gonna be mad about that, and probably the dudes drumming up there are gonna be a little bit cooler too. So they might be on the other side. I'm not sure, but it's one of those two sides, and it's still a problem. So I don't know. I don't think he's ever gonna fix it because he's Jerry Jones. He's very stuck in his ways, But hopefully they can just destroy the stadium and build a new one that's better.
another new stadium. So the third stadium in our lifetime. I will always say
this one's getting pretty. It's not the oldest stadium by any stretch of the means in the NFL, but like it is at least a decade old, if not like 15.
But this isn't like Madden. Those things are going to be there for 30, 40 years. There's no way.
But when you stadium,
but at the same time,
sucks.
It doesn't suck. Let's get that clear. There are stadiums, Houston, that are far, far worse. I'm not naming any names, Houston, but there are stadiums in this league, Houston. I'm not naming teams that are bad. So I don't know, man. I think AT&T Stadium is great. The prices are outrageous. I love how they have little bars on the first deck when you're sitting in that first deck. That's
pretty cool.
Elite. But then people figure it out and they come down from upstairs. So anyway, we talked about the weather the previous week. And this week we went for like 15 minutes on the Cowboys stadium. I didn't think we would do that.
And
Now,
weather.
technically the weather. Damn it, we did it again. NFL news.
One of these days.
NFL news. This is not the RDH weather podcast. This is we're talking sports here.
Could be.
Ravens hardly outlasted the Bengals on Thursday night last week, but look, that second half, and once again, we're not going to hit it at length because it was almost a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the best second halves probably I've seen all season. Just back and forth, and whoever had the ball last was going to win the game on that one. And not to mention the fantasy points from both of them. If you played Joe Burrow, you played Lamar Jackson, you played Derrick Henry, you played Mark Andrews, you played Jamar Chase, and even if you had Roquan Smith as your defensive player, they had well above projected. Actually, I take that back. Derrick Henry, I think, had 14 points. He was projected 17 or something like that. Anyway, just destroyed them. But the Bengals look good too. Mm-hmm. And that's a team that you don't want into the playoffs because that means you're playing them the first week because they're coming in from a wild card position most likely. But the AFC, even though the record doesn't show it on some teams, I mean, the Bengals are just starting to come together. And the fact that they lost that game, and let's not even talk about the fact that Baltimore lost off a toe touch, at the beginning of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs, like, it's a whole other story. But we got so many good matchups this week. But what do you think about the Ravens? What do you think about the Bengals? Because these teams look really, really good.
They look amazing. And to your point, if you started pretty much anyone in that game whose name is not Zay Flowers, you were a happy camper, so it's just hard. I will say that I think the Bengals probably would have beaten any team in the NFL that's not the Ravens. I think if any other team showed up that night, I think they would have won, which is tough because that was the Bengals at their peak. I think you saw them there, and that was
second half.
Second half, 100%. If they played like that the whole game, they would have put up 60. But in that second half, it was 100% their peak. And when you're playing at your peak, and Lamar Jackson was on the other side, and he's also just playing at an MVP, probably the best. I'll say probably the best he's ever played in the NFL right now.
Easy.
It's hard to win, and you're just like if you're Joe Burrow in that situation, you're like, what else do I need to do? Like what else am I supposed to do here? I went up and I put up drives pretty much. I don't know if they punted in that second half. You put up a drive and a touchdown pretty much every single time. Jamar Chase had a career day. How do you not win that football game? Well, it's because your defense sucks. And it's a divisional opponent. This is not somebody who you should be giving up. I don't know how many in the first game, like 40, and like 30 something in this second game.
34, 35, yeah.
I was saying to one of my Bengals friends, I was like, if the Bengals can keep this below 30 or at least close to 30, I think you win. But if it goes anywhere past 34, 35, 36, I think you lose. And that's exactly what happened. You can't let this team just continue to get going and going and going. You got to get at least one stop or two stops. You got to get a stop, period. So I thought if the Bengals defense was a little bit better that they could have won that game. I think if some of their other guys, not named Trey Hendrickson, do anything, they could have won that game. Obviously, the Ravens are probably the best offensive unit in the NFL right now. It's not named the Lions. And I think that's even a conversation too, so it's hard to stop them. I get it. But, it's at the end of the day, you needed one stop. You couldn't get it at all in the second half. I don't know, where you're supposed to go from there. Obviously, defense is going to be the big question moving forward. Their offense is fine. They do this like every single year. Joe Burrow enters November, and they were talking about it on the broadcast, and he just goes to another level. When the playoffs come, he finds another one. So it's always like he's just continuously playing at his best level and just continuously like bringing out the best in him and all the players around him too. I wish he could do it. I wish he could play on defense because he'd probably play better than some of those guys. But it's a tough way to lose. It really is. And the Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL. Lamar is playing the best he ever has been, and I think right now he's like second in receiving or passing yards, something like that. And he's also up there in this is going to be his craziest MVP season and probably the craziest MVP season we've ever seen. So he's on another level right now as well.
Well, it's nice, because you see a couple things. You see, first of all, hitting on the Joe Burrow. I mean, he turns it on. Why does he play so well in November? I don't know. Let's think about it for a second. College football, November. Mm-hmm. I think, it's like he's used to playing that well in November. Now, college football, If you don't remember from a couple of years ago, Joe Burrow was undefeated and got transferred from Ohio State because of a guy named Justin Fields was there and he wasn't starting over him. And he transfers to LSU and goes on a undefeated run and wins the Natty. And now the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL, at least before the previous week, in terms of catching, were LSU guys. I mean, not in terms of yardage, but in terms of Jamar Chase. I think it might have been most receptions or yards per reception or something like that. But long story short, LSU is just churning out talent. And Joe Burrow in November, we've seen it. We've seen it personally at A&M, just absolutely destroying A&M in November and anybody that he touched in college football. So I think that probably has something to do with it. And then, we were talking about Lamar. It's cool to see for me because when I became a huge football fan, and I've always been a football fan, was born with a Cowboy shirt on, but I don't. The thing I can't remember is I'm like, oh, what is the first football memory? And I think about it, I'm like, I don't really have a first football memory aside from the Cowboy games, but the first player that aside from we're not talking 90s players here, we're talking early 2000s players. I'm 6, 7 years old. There's a guy by the name of Mike Vick that comes to mind, right? Before that, it was Randall Cunningham for the Eagles, who was not nearly as fast, but I do remember watching him. Mike Vick was a guy that transformed the game at Virginia Tech. I remember watching him in college, and I was like, this guy, this is something that has never been seen before. This is insane. Nobody's ever moved like this guy has before. And he started a new wave of quarterbacks. RG3, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, when he got into the league, right? Jaden Daniels. There's a new position that was new way that the position was played. And you're watching it this year with Jaden Daniels, and you're watching it this year with Lamar Jackson. Now, I don't think I've ever seen anybody as lethal with the ball in the open field than Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position, because Barry Sanders, oh my God, watching that guy was like, good Lord. And it was insane. But at quarterback, I would even put him above Mike Vick at this point, which is insane to even think about that I'm saying.
No question.
But try to get him down.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get Lamar Jackson down. Watch guys try to tackle him. You remember they just bounce off him? And he gets 5 extra yards every time? That's a running back move. He's an athlete that plays quarterback. Why is he second in league in passing yards? Mm-hmm. He said he couldn't pass. Mm-hmm. Well, this guy's doing it all, and this AFC, this week, we're going to get to the matchups in a second, but my goodness, Ravens are playing so well. Bengals are looking good, even though they lost by 1. And then we're going to go to the other side. We're going to go to the old shit sandwich, we like to call it, right? And the shit sandwich this week, folks, was in Germany. I apologize. On behalf of American NFL fans. What the hell were you doing putting the Panthers and the New York Giants? What, Danny Dimes going to bring in what are we doing, guys? What are we doing?
I thought it wasn't a good game, but I thought that Danny Dimes could have had a chance to redeem himself that game.
But why would you make that matchup? Why would you make that matchup?
If you're going to another country, you sending KC and Buffalo to Germany? No, that's not. We're not throwing.
Why? Why? When the NBA was trying to, grow the game, who did they bring in front? Michael Jordan to other countries. You don't bring the New York Giants and the Panthers. They had the number 1 pick.
Yeah, it's rough.
And the Giants are right there, top 5 the most recent years.
You could have seen that coming.
Okay, I understand. Maybe not the Ravens. I get it. Maybe not the Ravens, but
sound like the Rams or something.
Why not the Chiefs? Why not? Yeah, they're already the most popular team right now. Throw them in Germany. That's Patrick Mahomes. That's Mahomes. Put him in Germany. You know what I mean? If you're trying to grow the game, to me, I was shocked and upset. You know what I mean? Just absolutely shocked. When I saw it and we picked the game, I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, 9:30 in the morning, I'm getting up for it. This is what we got going on here? Giants and Panthers.
Actually watched
I'm done. I watched it. I had Daniel Jones as my starting quarterback because Dak went out. It made it all the worse, but I picked up Russ. We're good. Anyway, I'm done on the Giants and the Panthers. I'm sorry. I know Panthers got to win. I apologize if any of our fans are fans of their team because you're probably hurting as much as I am.
I think they're probably
Bears.
hurting. Why the heck are they playing in Germany? That's same thing as I get. I get the Jacksonville, London thing. Duval,
Yes.
that's their thing. That's
Yes.
their team. But like, why do we always? Jacksonville, they don't play horrible opponents every single week. So I'd say one of those games they could probably go over there. But I don't know. It's scheduling and stuff. The NFL doesn't want to do it. But there's always like I think with like the South America games that those kind of work though, because they always send like the Raiders down there. Sometimes they send like one of the Cali teams too, maybe like the Cowboys every once in a while.
Weird.
It makes
Weird.
sense. It makes sense.
Weird. You know what I mean? Like
Jacksonville and London, all that.
It baffles me. And like, look, I get you're going. The Jets had a game overseas as well. I get that. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's the Jets. I get
cool.
that. It's a big football team. It's a market that has been plagued with not a ton of success.
Yeah, still the Jets.
It's still the Jets Jets, and I can get behind that. But Bryce Young and Daniel Jones. I mean, look, man, I was stoked for Malik Neighbors and Xavier Legette. That's what I was stoked for, right? That's the college football guy in me, just stoked to watch it. They didn't do a whole lot, so I don't know. I was just that's shit sandwich. That's the shit sandwich for this week. You know what I mean? And I think I might have just made a new segment up there. That's going to be a good one. Anyway, on the side of the shit sandwich is the fries, and that's the Bears and Caleb Williams right now. It's not looking good. What a seamless transition.
Not quite in the sandwich yet, but we're getting there. Maybe someday you put the fries in the sandwich because I mean we're rolling downhill pretty fast.
Oh, you're talking like people at the lunch table that used to throw in like the Doritos. You know what I mean? Like they would take they would take the bread off, and it's always the same sandwich. It's like a piece of ham that I don't know if it's ham. You know what I mean? Like a slice of cheese, some mayonnaise, and then they get the chips and just crunch it up. You know what I mean? But then you look and like the bread's all gross. Yeah. It doesn't make a ton of sense. But
it is kind of nasty. I mean, maybe when I was like 8, it was cool, but like I don't know. It's like too much for me right now. I'm like, I want to.
There's like people that are just like sitting there eating a sandwich right now with chips in it. Like, guys, I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. I get it, but I'm also not one to like put the fries on the burger. I'll rip the fries and then I'll rip the burger.
That is like a thing, though. People do like there are burgers that come like that with the fries in the burger.
Or if we're talking things here with French fries, we missed the biggest one.
Yeah,
there's people that dip French fries in like fountain drinks.
Drinks?
We're talking like Coca-Cola. Dude, I've been in a professional hockey game and I've seen it.
Yeah, well, maybe that's just hockey fans. But I mean,
I don't know.
I understand like the shake thing. You put it like a fry and you put it in the shake.
Yes,
I get that. But like fountain drinks, like it's just
salty and sweet.
It's it's just wet. It's just like a wet fry.
It doesn't make sense. It's the same thing with the anyway. Okay. Anyway, football talk. We're getting back to football talk. This is what happens when we talk about the Bears. Usually shit sandwich. Usually we like, we're big Bears fans because, we got to see Caleb Williams in person. I was not far from USC.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you stop your whole thing.
I didn't know that there's a smoke alarm going off at your place right now.
It's beeping. I don't know if you can pick it up, but it is beeping.
I haven't heard it at all.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been, but I mean, we're still good to keep going. I don't think I'll cut this out either.
Oh, this episode, like, God, Spotify people, we are so sorry. If you're watching on the tube,
you hear that?
Tanner just looked like aliens fell from the sky, and he looks like the episode. Should go find it, by the way. It's like 10 or 15 back, right? Literally fell out of my chair right to start the episode. Dude. All right, now we're back. Now we're talking about the Bears here. The rant has gone a bit away, but here's my thing.
They suck.
They're not playing too well.
No. They're
not playing too well. And unfortunately, it's the same song and same dance. And this is probably the last time we're going to bring them up until they get a dub. If you watch the Bears play, and I understand they played against the Patriots, it's a team that they should have absolutely beaten. But that offensive line got destroyed and absolutely gets destroyed. So for me, I look at that game and I'm like, that's a layup. You should absolutely win that game, but they
True.
don't. And there's bigger problems in Chicago. It is the offensive line, and for some reason, that defense just kind of sort of disappears at times. I don't know why, because that's been their backbone the entire time that I've grown up watching the Chicago Bears. I remember the Chicago Bears with Brian Urlacher. You know what I mean? Like those were some mean Chicago Bears and those defenses. But now it's just not. It doesn't look as good as it used to on the defensive side of the ball. So to me, it's unfortunate, but that's a team that I thought was going to be a lot better, and I'm gonna wear it on the chin because that was a team that I thought was going to take that leap, and they have definitely not taken that leap. Tanner, do you want to add anything into that?
Yeah, I think Caleb, like we said, pretty much all season he's had moments. He's had drives. He's had like big decisions and big plays that you can look back on and like that looked really good. But I think a lot of things went right, and I think to your point, they're just the shit sandwich. There's not a lot that these guys want to play for right now. There's just Caleb's not the leader that they want to play for. Unfortunately, that's kind of what I'm seeing. I think they are a good defensive unit, but ever since they let that Hail Mary in, man, it looked like they just kind of doom and gloom over there in Chicago. It looked like the that monster, that quarterback woes of never really having a really good franchise passer is just kind of coming back to those Bears players right about now. And it looks like the hope that they had to begin the season is just completely dwindled. After a couple tough losses, and I think that you got to put that on the coaching staff, and you got to put that on the head, the quarterback, the leader of the offense, right? Like who's going to get those guys going? It's the quarterback. It's the head coach. It's the culture of the program. And the fact that I'm even saying this right now about the Chicago Bears is crazy that they have a culture problem, So I just don't think they want to play. I just don't think they want to play for that team. They just don't look, they're not getting to the ball quick. They're playing lethargically. The defense is just not playing up to the standard that I think they've held themselves to pretty much every single year. But I think it's because one, they just don't feel confident in their offense. They're on the field all the time. And when you're on the field over and over and over and over, it gets, pretty repetitive, pretty redundant, and just annoying at that point. I would imagine. Obviously I never played in the NFL, but I would imagine that it would be a little annoying if your number one overall pick is just really not doing a whole lot. So similar case in Carolina. If you don't have an offense, it's just your defense becomes one dimensional because they're on the field all the time, and it just becomes more difficult. And I think he's just not playing well. He just really isn't. So I don't know. I think you still give him a lot more time. I think you give him a year or two, and hopefully 3 if he continues to get better. But like, it's not anywhere near the end of the season or end of the road for Caleb Williams. I don't think. I hope not. I think he's got so much talent. I just think he just needs time to develop. And hey, maybe invest in an offensive line for once. You got all these shiny new cars with all these receivers, but it doesn't matter if Caleb doesn't have the time to get him the ball, right? So I think they're close. They're definitely close, but you got to let him develop, and you got to give him some time in the pocket, or else the players just won't play for your program. So I think there's a little bit of a culture problem there right now, but I think a good quarterback, a stretch of wins will easily fix that. So they've played very well up until like I guess the halfway point of the season. And then, Caleb started doing Caleb things, but he's going to get better. I think he will get better, but the history of the quarterbacks in Chicago don't give me a lot of faith in that statement, unfortunately.
But yeah, and this offense, aside from the offensive line, there's a lot of pieces that you can't argue with. So, definitely invest in the offensive line, and we'll see what happens. You saw what happened to Joe Burrow. You're kind of starting to see it happen with C.J. Stroud. Now they've had injuries on the offensive line, and you see it all the time. I mean, the early 2000s with the Cowboys, that's pretty much the main reason that Romo ran for his life the entire time he played quarterback, because they didn't really invest in an offensive line aside from a couple key positions, like Larry Allen and some of those guys. But moving on to, we're just going to look at the AFC right now and the NFC right now, each of the division, kind of go over it real quick and see what we're thinking here. Buffalo right now sitting on top of the AFC East at 8-2. You got Miami 3-6, Jets 3-7, New England Patriots 3-7. I think this one's pretty much locked up. Not going to lie to you.
Easy.
I think the Bills. I think the Bills get AFC East. Pretty handedly, especially because they have a massive lead on the Dolphins right now, and the rest of them are sitting at only 3 wins. AFC North. This one's going to be a little crazy. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers still at 7-2. I can't believe Dallas was one of the only teams to beat them. That's pretty crazy.
It is.
Then Baltimore Ravens at 7-3, who are in second place. But guess who plays this week? We'll get to that in a second. And then the Cincinnati Bengals at 4-6, and Tanner's Cleveland Browns at 2-7. This one, what do you think on this one?
Which one?
What do you think?
Which one is this one?
AFC North. We're talking AFC North
total. I mean,
Pittsburgh right now is sitting in front. Do you think Pittsburgh ends the season at 1? No way, right? No way.
They're not gonna. I think they split Baltimore at the very least. I don't think they go 2-0 in Baltimore, but they do. I mean, Pittsburgh. I saw a stat that was saying like they haven't played any divisional games at this point at all. So I think Joe Burrow's going to take at least one. I think Lamar Jackson's going to take at least one, and one of those two teams might take 2. So I think they're going to easily clean up against Cleveland. So that's going to be 2 wins for them. They could get 1 here, maybe another one. And what would that put them at? Like 4 and like 2 around that point.
Well, then we'll see, because they're going to probably be sitting right around at the exact same. Because Baltimore right now, their division record they're 2-1. Then the Bengals are 1-2. Cleveland's 1-1, and you're correct, 0-0.
That's right
for Pittsburgh.
But yeah, Baltimore lost to Cleveland, so that actually might be a huge L moving forward. Because
exactly,
let's say Pittsburgh wins, like I said, 4 games. They
tie.
They tie in division.
If they tie,
they could.
If they tie the division record, it goes to Pittsburgh, right?
Well, it would depend on like the head-to-head, I think, at that point, right? Because it goes like overall record and then division record, and then it goes, I don't know the third tiebreaker. I would assume it's head-to-head. Like if you beat them, like let's say like you 2-0'd, like if you're Pittsburgh and you 2-0'd Baltimore, during the season, then I think it would go to Pittsburgh, because that would make sense.
Well, yeah, but then it goes to division record, like you said, and their division record, if they 2-0 them, then Baltimore's going to have as many losses or more losses, than the Bengals.
Yeah. I don't know what the third tiebreaker is, but it is some type of head-to-head, and I would imagine it's head-to-head between you two. I would think it's something of that nature. If it's not that, then it's head-to-head between common opponents, and then that's obviously the division, but the people around, and the people in or the teams that you all have played, because you all have very similar schedules. So that if it goes to that, it's going to go like that. Either of those 2 tiebreakers. I'm not sure which one happens first, but Pittsburgh absolutely could win this division, but they have to play well against Baltimore. That's the big one, obviously. And I mean, historically, Lamar's not had the greatest track record with Pittsburgh, but again, it's a divisional opponent. It's good defense, though, and this is probably the best Lamar's ever looked, so I'm not really picking against him. I think the Ravens win, but I think the Steelers make the playoffs and probably the 5 seed, if not, having a chance at that division. So
Definitely. Moving on to the AFC South, we've got the Houston Texans with the only positive record in the division at 6-4. You've got the Indianapolis Colts, who knows their quarterback, 4-6. The Tennessee Titans at 2-7, and the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-8, who have fallen off of a literal cliff. That one's, honestly, I wrap that one up too. I don't, even though it's only a couple games, I don't see the Indianapolis Colts, with everything that's going on with their team, I don't see them catching the Texans. And CJ, as the season goes on, gets pretty well. Mm-hmm. Who's back?
Anthony Richardson. He's back in the.
He's back as their starter already.
Yeah,
it was like 2 weeks. Yeah, we nailed that one. We said soon in the season.
Talk about bad ownership.
It's one of those things where you had to send a message. They definitely sent a message, and I think he's going to be a better leader
2 weeks
because of it, and
that's it,
and everything.
2 weeks. That's all. That's the only time he gets on the bench is 2 weeks. Like he clearly was not there, just overall. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to win a division, but it's kind of surprised me that they put him way back in there, like in 2 weeks. Like, yeah, Joe Flacco sucked, but like
they might be facing in-division opponents here shortly, so that might be why they put him back. And Joe hasn't been playing good, and you need to sell seats. So that's what I'm assuming is going on there. But pretty much AFC East to me locked up, AFC South locked up, AFC North not locked up any stretch of the means, and then we've got the AFC West with the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs the Chargers that nobody's really talking about. It's 6-3, playing pretty well. Berbert with Harbaugh over there. Did you see how Harbaugh got mad at himself because he dropped the ball in pregame when he's throwing to Herbert? That guy goes and picks up a tire and just at the middle of the workout. That guy is so electric, and I'm so bummed that we went and saw not his Chargers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm so bummed that happened. But this one, I'm not picking against Patrick Mahomes.
No,
I would assume you're not either.
No, but I think the Chargers absolutely make the playoffs, and hey, I mean, maybe even the Broncos could sneak in there. They have a good record, if I'm not mistaken, right? They're pretty up there.
They're negative.
They're negative. What is like?
They're like four. They're like 4 and whatever.
They
Like
got 5 wins. They got 5 wins, I think.
I'll look.
Okay, I mean, they're playing good. I like Bo Nix. I think he's been playing well. I'm not saying I think they could sneak in, is all I'm saying. But it's gonna be tough. But obviously, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers who will make it, the Chargers who will probably make it unless Herbert gets hurt, and then that's one more spot for maybe the Bengals, maybe. Probably not an AFC South team. Probably not an AFC East team, unfortunately, for Aaron Rodgers. So maybe an AFC West team.
There you go. And you're right, by the way, Denver is 5-5. So they're sitting at the
500.
clean 500 for the season. But
that's the best out of like the remaining wildcard teams that I didn't mention. Like Cincinnati, who could make it, the Jets, who are probably not going to make it,
No.
but they have playoff hopes. I'd say they're a good team. And maybe the Colts. But they don't know how to play quarterback. So I think the Broncos are probably the front runner out of those teams.
At that point, for sure. Out of those teams, I would take the Broncos over those teams right now, which is absolutely insane to say. But the Jets have not looked good at all. But you never know. It's the season progresses and Devontae and Aaron Rodgers getting that system together and kind of keep going.
Bengals
also
have
so many weapons.
Yeah, Bengals got to rattle off some wins though if they hope to make it.
Absolutely, because they're sitting at a negative record, and you cannot do that, especially in that division. They're hoping for wild card. Jumping to the NFC, we got the NFC East. We got Philly on the top at 7-2. Washington at second place at 7-3. Dallas at 3-6, and the New York Giants at 2-8. We kind of talked about Dallas at length, so I fully think that Dallas is going to be sitting there in the third spot and the fourth spot. But I do, third spot Dallas, fourth spot Giants. I don't think that's going to change. But the Eagles and Washington could definitely change, especially because they got to play each other. And whoever, if that splits, then it goes to different division records. Because right now Philadelphia is 2-0, and Washington is also 2-0 in the division. They're both undefeated, so it's really going to go head to head against those teams. But Philly's starting to look very good, and Washington's looked pretty solid all season and lost some really, really close ones. What do you have between the Eagles and Washington? Who do you think is going to take this one?
I got Philly. I just think they're the better oiled machine. It's hard to pick against that Dan Quinn defense, even though they have kind of struggled. But I feel like we're gonna. I just don't know. It's so hard because it's like picking between a rock and a hard place. Obviously that Philly offense. You know what they can do. You know what they're about. Saquon is probably gonna win an award at least. If it's not Derrick Henry, it's gonna be Saquon. So I it's hard to pick against the Eagles at this point, and their defense is finally starting to come on too. So they're finally starting to play like the Philadelphia Eagles defense we know and love. So I got Philly, and it's gonna be close though. I think it's gonna be within a game, and I think it's gonna go down to that final week. You got division matchups. I think Dallas plays Washington at the end of the year. So that game could absolutely be a game that Washington plays their starters, and that could be a game that could matter later on down. And then I would assume Philly plays the Giants. I really don't know their schedule, but again, a win that is going to have to play their starters and everything. So I think it's going down to the last week, and I got Philly by like a hair, like an absolute hair. I think it's going to come down to these divisional games, as it always does, with these two. So I got Philly.
It has to come down with the division games, because if you lose in the division, everything completely changes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So division games are the biggest on the season, and you got 6 of them. So NFC North, we've got Detroit sitting there at 8-1. We've got Minnesota at 7-2, which is pretty crazy to think Minnesota's kind of still going. We've got Green Bay at 6-3, and then Chicago at 4-5. The only undefeated team division-wise is the Detroit Lions. I do think that we've talked about the Lions at length. and we've both kind of said the Lions are going to take this division. But it's very interesting to see who's going to take second and third. And this is a division that is really looking like they could easily have 3 teams go in, because the NFC South, which we're going to talk about in a second, is not played well. And really the NFC West has not played well either. So right now at this point in the season, the NFC North right now is the front runner for, honestly, the entire NFC. Probably is the best division at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens to end it out. But Detroit's sitting there at 1. Minnesota and Green Bay is going to be a huge fight for 2 and 3. And I know I'm already putting Chicago out of it, but I'm thinking Chicago's sitting there at number 4 because they've got so many more, division games. And the thing about it is with Chicago, though, there's a bright side. They haven't played any division games either. So
they're gonna lose them all.
Yeah, but hey, right now they're having won or haven't lost. So we'll see.
This is like
but
the tiniest silver lining ever.
100%. But I still think they're going to be 4th in that division, and I think Detroit's going to be 1, and 2 and 3 is up for grabs. NFC South: Atlanta 6 and 4, Tampa Bay 4 and 6, New Orleans 3 and 7, Carolina 3 and 7. What do you think about this division?
I said at the beginning of the season, I think the Falcons are just too good. I think their roster is just too good to not win this division. And Baker has no starting receivers at all. So it's pretty much
Evans is coming back in a couple weeks, I think.
It's good, but you still don't have Godwin on the other side. That's just that dynamic duo. True. It's still gonna be tough for Baker. He's been playing really well.
Really well.
However, a number 1 receiver will definitely help, but 2 number 1 receivers would have helped more. So I got Atlanta, and they got a 2-game lead, and I don't know. It's Kirk season. It's Kirko season. When you got Kyle Pitts doing things, it's that's a dub in itself in Atlanta. So yeah, I got Atlanta. I think they'll take it easy. And I also did while you're talking too. I looked up the NFL tiebreakers for divisions, and I said I'm pretty sure we were correct on the first 2, and the third one I was kind of correct. It was it's like a head-to-head. It says it's like a common opponent win percentage. So it's like how many games did you win? Versus common opponents. That's the third tiebreaker. So it's basically a head-to-head within the teams that you've already played. So, for example, if you're in the exact same, division, you're going to be playing a lot of the same teams, probably a ton of them in a season. So that's where the second tiebreaker comes in, if you were curious about what we were talking about earlier with the AFC North.
There we go.
So
there we go.
That doesn't really change my opinion, though. I think Ravens still got it in that one. And I think Atlanta still got it in this one.
And I don't need to say anything else on that one because I completely agree. Kirko Chains. Let's roll, dude. NFC West, Arizona.
It's going to be tough.
First place, 6 and 4. San Francisco's 5 and 4. They're above 500 now. They're positive. The Rams 4 and 5, and the Seahawks 4 and 5. This division plays each other so well.
I know.
So might be the hardest and the best division. They play against each other the best in the entire league, aside from maybe one that we just talked about with the NFC North, because those games are those division games with the NFC North this year are so good. But the NFC West, San Francisco is not on top, which is very interesting. Usually San Francisco starts very well, but they've had a ton of injuries, a ton. CMC's back though. Debo's back. Kittle is now hurt again with something else. Unfortunately, you lost Ayuk, but you have, with McCaffrey and Mason as their running backs, you got some guys there that you can kind of lean on a little bit. Brock Purdy's, I think, top 10 this year in terms of statistics. So Brock's still going, but the Cardinals and the Niners, to me, that's going to be that division at the end of the year. But then you got the Rams that are playing sneaky good, and if they string together 4 wins, if you're in this division and string together 4 wins in a row, it completely changes. So this is a division that's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. Who do you got in this one?
I was hoping you were going to go first. It's tough. What are all the records again? Say it again.
The Cardinals are 6 and 4. The Niners are 5 and 4. The Rams are 4 and 5. The Seahawks are 4 and 5. The division record, Arizona is 2 and 0. Oh, this is interesting. The Niners, 0-2, right? 2 out of their 4 losses come in the division at 1 and 2. The Rams have a better division record than the Niners, 2 and 1, and the Seahawks are 0 and 2. So right now, Arizona's chilling.
Well,
undefeated with that record.
they beat they beat the Niners in that game. Well, they came back at the very end. I don't remember the other game that Arizona won in its division. Did they play the Rams yet? Have they played the Seahawks yet? I think they played the Seahawks and they won, actually, didn't they? Um,
Makes sense.
I don't remember. But it it's hard. I think I got it between two teams. I think it's going to come down to Arizona and the Niners. I think that's really where, Arizona, they look really good right now. James Conner is playing fantastically. That offensive line is just destroying people, and it looks like vintage James Conner out there, and that's just letting Kyler do all he wants. But I think the Niners get it right. I think they get going now that they got CMC back. They're getting some guys back from injury. Brock Purdy's finally starting to play again. But I got the Niners in this division. I don't know if it will go down that way, but that's just, I can't not go with them, especially now that McCaffrey is back and he looked just fine. He looked pretty healthy in the game that he did play. But the Cardinals defense is playing well. Cardinals are tough. This might be the division that comes down to a tied record, a tiebreaker that we were talking about earlier. It might be this one. Especially if the Niners keep losing these games that they should win. So I think there's a lot of time left, but the fact that they're only like a game apart makes me think that the Niners still got a pretty good shot at this, and they still got a lot of games to play left in the division. So I'm gonna go Niners, but it's gonna be close. I think it's very possible that these two teams tie at the end of the season. It's gonna come down to that divisional record.
Yeah, definitely. And matchup prediction section. You're going to go ahead and take us off. The Commanders versus the Eagles. Who do you got?
Commanders versus the Eagles. It's tough. I mean, I was talking about this earlier, but it's just, which one do you even pick with Saquon playing as well as he has? But the same thing about Jaden Daniels and that amazing offense. I mean, look what they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They put up 27 points. They weren't able to win, but it was like 27, I think it was. But that's a really good defense, and Jaden didn't really look that uncomfortable from that performance too. And I think that you got to give a lot of credit to that offensive coaching staff for being able to kind of eliminate that really really stout Philadelphia defense or Pittsburgh defense. So that's like a very very good benchmark for this match. I'm gonna go with Philly just because you got Jaden Daniels. He's a rookie quarterback on the other side. I'm not gonna pick against Saquon playing the best he ever has. I'm not going to pick against Philadelphia the way they're playing right now, especially with that defense. I think Jaden Daniels, I think we see a human game from Jaden Daniels on Thursday
And
night.
the Eagles are at home.
And the Eagles are, fly Eagles fly. Yeah, I think we're going there. So
I got Eagles too.
It's just, I think there's too many factors to pick against the Eagles right now. They're pretty much rolling, and you never know with Jaden Daniels. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad game, but I'm just saying he's a rookie. He could, make a couple mistakes, which do in turn determine the outcome of the game. So, yeah, I got Philly, and it's going to be a great game, though. I think it's going to be really, really good game. And this is going to be a fun one for years to come, too, especially since we get it twice a year.
Absolutely. I think that you're going to look at this team, and if Jaden continues to do what he does this season, I think that you're going to look at these two pretty much splitting every single year. And I think it's going to be you're splitting one, you're winning at home, and they're winning at home. So I'm going to go Eagles on this one as well. I think that the Eagles are going to get it done in their house on Thursday night. Like you said, it's going to be hard to stop Saquon, but Dan Quinn, and if anybody can, it's Dan Quinn. And he's done that. He did that very successfully in Dallas against the Giants many times.
He knows these teams very well, which is the part that scares me about this. Dan Quinn knows the Philadelphia Eagles. He knows Saquon Barkley. He's played against these teams, however many years he was in Dallas, like 4 years or whatever it was. So he knows these teams pretty well. He knows how they run, and the Eagles haven't changed a whole lot since he's been there in the time Dallas has played them. So like you said, if anyone can do it, he's the man that can stop them. I think it's going to be a good game, though. It's going to be fun.
We got great football matchups this week. So we're taking the first one, both taking the Eagles over here. The points on this one, I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so I'd take the over and the points. I'm not sure who's favored in this match. I would assume it's probably the Eagles, so you're not going to get a ton if you're going there on the strictly the money line. But I'd go above points on this one. And then, Saquon, anytime touchdown probably wouldn't hurt either. And we got some good, real good matchups with Mr. Scary Terry McLaurin That's a guy that
Mm-hmm.
I'd put for a touchdown too because he loves to show out against division opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Ravens and Steelers on Sunday.
Jeez, man.
That is such an important game. Such an important game, especially because of what we just got done talking about with their division and their head-to-head record or their division record. This is a huge game. This is a massive, massive game. I understand that the Steelers have looked really good, but Baltimore is on another level to me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really hard to pick against them. You know, like I said, it's literally a couple episodes ago, the Bills and the Chiefs, probably the only team in the Lions I'm going to throw in there, are the only teams that's going to give me a little bit of a pause. I got to go Ravens here. I do think it's going to be close, but I got the Ravens. Lamar's on another level this year. He wants to make it to the Super Bowl. So I'm going Ravens on this one. These are the games you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have these games because Mike Tomlin's the best coach in the league, in my opinion. He's not slowing down. So dude's never had a losing season. So
yeah, it's gonna be tough. I think this is gonna be a big challenge for Lamar, and this is gonna tell us a lot about what they intend to do throughout the end of this season. I think, like I said, it's a divisional matchup. These are the opponents that know you best, and especially you got Tomlin on the other side. It's tough, but this is a matchup of football minds. Like, this is just a football fan's dream right here. This matchup. So I wish it was like Sunday night or Monday night or something. But it's still
well,
it's too late to flex.
well,
I think it is too late to flex. Unfortunately, we already
we
had it.
got it.
We already had a flex into Sunday night this month or this week, so we can't do it again. You know,
Yeah, we got a good Sunday night game, but before we get to the Sunday night game,
Monday night
the
sucks.
game that should be Sunday night is Sunday afternoon. We've got the Bills.
I didn't pick the game though. I didn't pick.
Oh, you didn't pick your game yet?
I didn't pick my game. What are we doing?
Oh, my bad. Go ahead. Pick your game. Let's get a move on here, dude. Come on.
I'm
You know what
contemplating. This might be the hardest pick of the season. Just kidding. I think I got Ravens here. But
I mean? Damn it.
I got Ravens. I just
All
can't
that
pick.
for the Ravens.
Yeah,
All that for the Ravens.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I wanted to throw a curveball, but then you kind of push we pushed the button a little bit early. But I might got the curveball button unlocked. But anyways, I think Ravens take this. Lamar's playing the best he's ever has been, and he's a quarterback. He's a disgusting quarterback. But yeah, next matchup.
Bills Chiefs go.
This
This
is hard.
Yeah, take that one. Take that one.
I got Chiefs. They're undefeated. You can't, but they suck. That's the only thing. They suck right now, but they're winning games, and they should have lost already. So they should be.
Lost to Tampa.
They should have lost to Tampa. They should have lost to Denver, but they had a miracle at the very end of the game with that blocked kick. So no, I'm gonna go KC. But I think if there's a game that they would drop, it's gonna be this one because Buffalo looks. Josh Allen, he looks great this season. At moments, he's looked pretty bad, but at moments, he's looked pretty good. And I think he always shows up for KC. He always puts it out. He always plays well in these matchups. Do we know what stadium? Is this in Buffalo? Is this in KC?
I'm not sure. I can check, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna go something a little crazy. I think Bill's got him.
You think it's this one?
I think it's this one. I think it's this one. The only reason I think it's this one is the simple fact of what you said. Josh Allen, for some reason, decides to show up whenever he plays the Chiefs, no matter what. Now the Bills,
They're
definitely,
Bills at home.
Yeah, they are at home. Okay, I mean that solidified my pick even more. But I've got the Bills in this one. I told myself this whole season I'm not going to pick against Patrick Mahomes, but I would have picked the opposite team because this game to me is a 50-50 toss-up. Just like every time they play, it is a legitimate 50-50 toss-up. And another game that might not be a 50-50 toss-up, but almost beat the Ravens last week. Got real close, 1 point loss. Sunday night, we've got the Bengals versus the Lions.
I don't think that's right. I think it's Chargers.
Chargers? Oh, man. I got really excited for that.
I see it at the bottom of the screen, actually.
Unfortunately, yeah, I wrote it down wrong. That sucks.
That's still a really good matchup.
I mean, but they should have easily put the Bills and the Chiefs, or Ravens and Steelers, for that matter, on Sunday night.
Technically, we can't have two back-to-back teams on Sunday night. That is a rule.
Really?
Yeah, you can't. Like, Detroit was on it last week, so they can't be on it again. Like, they can be on, like, Monday night or Thursday night.
Every week. Give me Detroit every week.
They could be on different like primetime games every week. That'd be cool. Like the
Good.
Cowboys have like, Monday, Sunday, and Thursday night games.
They,
You
we'll
know,
see. We'll see how many toward the end of the season. But yeah, I mean
well, they're about
that's
to
the next
do. They're
one.
about to have their Monday night game. So
Yeah, that's the
hopefully no
next one we'll
more.
talk about in a second. But okay, Chargers, right? Versus the Lions. See, that's why
Nope,
Tanner's here. If I
nope.
was,
It's
it's not the Lions.
no, it's Chargers and Bengals.
Wow, I messed that up big time.
Yeah, we're in
Okay,
LA.
Chargers and Bengals, and the home is in Chargers.
Yeah, it's in LA.
Oh, give me the Bengals. Give me the Bengals on that one. Give me the
Yeah,
Bengals after that. Just colossal mess up. We've had
it's been
smoke
a long
detector
day.
go off.
It has.
We've had stadium
Chalk this
talk. We've
episode
had
up.
we've had Odin just, I don't know if you heard it off, but he gave us a little howl because he wanted to go outside. Then he decided to lay down and just start going crazy. So if you heard that in the background, that's what that was. Completely off the rails. This just completely off. Tanner, just
I
take it.
blame the smoke detector. I think that was the cause, the root of all
Mm.
evil in this episode. Because I liked our shit sandwich discussion. I thought it was going real well, But no, I got the Bengals. They need a win. They need a win. So in Joe Burrow in a must win in November, give me Joe Burrow every single day of the week. I think like the Chargers have played so well. Like they've like Harbaugh has resurrected that team and they're fighting for him. And he's an awesome head coach, and Herbert's playing at a great level too, and he's just getting better and better every single week. However, it's Cincinnati Bengals. It's Joe Burrow, prime time. Jamar Chase went for like 250 the other night, and he's just like, give me the ball more. Why didn't he target me on that last play on the 2-point? It's like, dude, you already have like 14 or so. Like, what are we doing? So I got the Bengals. I think Jamar Chase is playing like the best receiver in the NFL right now, and Joe Burrow is top 3 in the quarterback conversation right now, right behind old Lamar Jackson, and probably honestly probably top 2. I don't know if I could put anyone above Joe Burrow right now. So it's not going to be
Goff.
Justin Herbert. Maybe Goff threw 5 picks the other night.
That's true. He did
So
get a win in Houston, but he did throw 5 picks. That's a good call. That's a good
yeah.
call.
So
You could have put Goff in there before.
I think before this week, 100%. But yeah, I got Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday Night Football, the flex.
Nice. Finally got that game right. A matchup that's, Battle of Texas this year. Guess what, Texans? It's yours. I got the Texans on this one. I got CJ Stroud getting right. Dallas, I unfortunately I don't really think that they're going to get any for sure wins unless it's maybe the Giants or maybe the Panthers. A Texans team that also, I would argue, I get they're 2 games up, but they need to win because these last couple of weeks they've been in games, but they just haven't closed, and they've just kind of let them go. And you're not used to really seeing that with the Texans, and you're not used to seeing the play that you've seen recently from CJ Stroud. So once again, though, his receivers are completely hurt. So I'm not gonna chalk that up saying that he's a bad quarterback by any stretch of the means. But I think he gets right. And if any defense is the defense to get right, it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention the sledgehammer they have this season at the running back position with Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to destroy the Cowboys because the Cowboys are 31st, if not 32nd,
probably 32.
32 in rush defense. And now the offense with Cooper Rush and or Trey Lance is probably not going to be on the field as much, so your defense is going to be a little bit more tired. So give me Houston. Give me Houston by however many points they have and add a little bit more. And also, ready for this? Here's the call of the week. Dalton Schultz touchdown.
I like it.
Mark that right now.
I was thinking the same thing. Return game to Dallas. This is going to be his revenge game. I think he hasn't gotten a touchdown all season. I've started him all season.
I dropped him this week.
I picked up Mike Gesicki. He wasn't a good move. But I played him the 1 week he didn't go off. He got like 9 targets though. Anyways, I think Dalton Schultz definitely gets involved, but I do think Nico Collins, he's at least been activated. I don't know if he's coming back this week, but he has been activated, and we could see him on the field at least in some limited capacity against the Cowboys. And that's not something you want to hear, especially with the 32 ranked probably defense just in general over there in Dallas. And also, Dallas is at home. Haven't won a single game this season at home, and I think the margin of loss has been like at least 30 points a game. No, yeah. I mean, on average, it's around there, probably 30, 35. In that area. So,
Good
not a
lord.
good look. So yeah, all the signs are pointing over to Houston. Take the over, and I don't think you're gonna. If you hadn't already taken the over, yeah, Texans are probably gonna be favored by a lot in this matchup. I would assume 2 scores because the Cowboys can't do anything. So it's gonna be a rough couple Cowboys picks here in the next couple weeks, unfortunately.
But we'll add more games so we can keep picking other ones. College football now. We are done with the old NFL talk this week. Now we're going to college football. This past weekend had some crazy upsets. The biggest one that we're going to hit on is Ole Miss upsets Georgia. The fact that Ole Miss kind of came out of the gate real hot, then they stumbled, and then they take down Georgia after Georgia, takes down Texas. Like the only team to really give. Well, and Texas had some close games as of recently, but you're not used to seeing Georgia lose to old Ole Miss. So the changing of the guard a little bit there. SEC is a little bit closer than it used to be, and then Alabama plays LSU, and Jalen Milroe just
I mean, how many?
wipes the floor.
He had like 182 rushing yards and like 4 touchdowns on the ground.
Yes,
Like it was just not right. It was just not right.
yes, it was absolutely absurd. And we reviewed the rankings last week, so we're gonna wait on reviewing the rankings this week, and we're gonna put next week. But exciting times in the SEC, exciting times in football, and the last exciting football thing we're gonna do this episode is the Quinn Ewers, University of Texas prospect profile. Last year, I had him as an early third round quarterback, which is pretty interesting. That's a pretty interesting, kind of place I had him last year. I don't think that was the best spot for him because I think right now I'm not going to drop the top 5 yet, but I do think he's definitely top 5 quarterback. Do I think he's worthy of a first round pick? The injuries scare me a bit, but
Inconsistencies.
the inconsistencies, the injuries scare me a bit, but this kid is easily going to get drafted in the first round. He is absolutely not an early third round player. If anything, he's probably a first round player, in my opinion. I haven't done my top 50 yet. I give a lot of players, first round grades, usually not a lot, usually between like 20 and 30. I usually never have above like 25 first round grades. And I like to kind of stick it that way. And Quinn Ewers right now is sitting on that cusp of second round to me, but depending on how he finishes out the season, we'll see. And also, it doesn't help that the guy that's backing you up is Arch Manning, which is one of the best quarterbacks, prospects, because he hasn't technically started yet in the entire country. And as soon as Quinn goes, Arch is going to step in, and he's done it this season as well when they've pulled Quinn at times in that Georgia game. So inconsistencies, you nailed it, but overall prospect profile, a crisp passer in college, a true pocket passer with elite arm strength. When this player is on the field, you see what he can be at the next level. Injuries are the main concern. See, that's what I'm saying. Even last year, I had this stuff dialed in. But the big thing for me is there was a lot of reports that he was going to return, and I didn't have any stock in those reports, and he did, and he returned. And then, hey, it is last year, the Big 12 championship game. He had 350 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. A lot of people forget to remember the last game of the Big 12 for UT. Quinn Ewers destroyed, and it was the best game of his career. So if you're getting that Quinn Ewers and you draft him in the first round, and he locks it in every time. Yeah, it's going to be great. But this year, it is not necessarily the strongest quarterback class, in my opinion. You have him, you have Cam Ward, you have the kid out of LSU. I'm not even going to try to say his name right now.
That's fine.
And you have a couple. Yeah, then you have a couple more that you're going to throw in there. So we'll hit these prospect profiles more and more each week. We'll add in more than just one. But if you're a college football fan, just know that we're going to hit them at the end of every episode. If you have any questions, let us know. Hit us up on rdh.sports on all social medias, and then our website, rdhsports.net. You can also submit questions there as well and see all of these prospect profiles there from this year's draft and all of the last year's drafts. And last announcement I'm going to make, because I always got to plug it, we always do a live version of the draft. We kind of live react the draft. So in April, we're going to do that, and it's going to be, just like last year, it was a blast. We had fun with people in the chat. But any other sports news this week, Tanner? Are we good to end this thing?
No sports news, but I just want to say if you've lasted this long, go down there. If you're on YouTube, go leave a comment. Who do you want to see Chad in his prospect profile next? Maybe we'll put it all a little bit down the line, but we do look at the comments. And if you're on YouTube, go down there, leave a comment, see, who do you want Chad to review, and me potentially talk about. And then if you're not on YouTube, go over to Instagram. Like Chad said, we got all the links, rdh.sports over there on Instagram, and you can leave a comment on one of the recent reels and things of that nature, and we will see it. Or, private message, direct message, all that good stuff. So if you want us to review a player, or if you want Chad to get an in-depth look at this guy, we've had a couple last year that were really good. I believe Braylon Allen was one of them, and he turned out to be a really, really good guy. A really good player for the Jets too. So
both the running backs.
Go down.
The fans love the running backs. The other one we went depth into was Bucky Irving. Also,
that's true.
Really good running back.
Yeah. So Chad knows what he's talking about a little bit, and we get your input as well. So if you want us to go review a guy, leave a comment, and maybe we'll get it done. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and go watch the NBA. It's pretty good, and hopefully we get a little bit of NBA action in the future. But see everyone.